All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Steam Powered Podcast for April 19th, 2014. We've been a while since we posted a last one. I think it's probably been 2 or 3 weeks. And part of that reason is I have been away at this particular location, somewhere here, one of these ways. I got to spend about 8 days out in Japan, and one of those days I got to go out to Akihabara, which where this photo is taken from, which is I guess a district of Tokyo. And if you've ever been there, it is pretty awesome, especially if you are a maker or a DIYer. Um, it is basically, well, let's focus on that part first. Um, there are just tons of these little, maybe 8 foot by 8 foot, maybe 10 foot by 10 foot shops, and they're down all these little alleyways, and they're basically electronics galore. And there's a lot of used parts. There are stuff you can obviously tell that someone, a bunch of stuff got sent back overseas, or was desoldered, taken apart, stripped for parts, and they've got every kind of resistor, capacitor, inductor, parts that I have no idea even saw. There's vacuum tubes, tons of vacuum tubes, if you're in a pinch and if you need one. But that was just absolutely incredible. Amateur radios, antennas. I mean, it was like basically it's somewhere between a flea market and a store. I mean, there's lots of stores that are selling new products, but the real good stuff, in my opinion, is the stuff that you have to kind of meander down the little alleyways. Um, and don't be afraid to go up the stairs, tiny little staircases. But there's these just absolutely fantastic vendors. Of course, if you speak Japanese, you probably will have a far better time trying to communicate. Um, Prices, if you're here in the U.S., for the most part, they're pretty comparable, at reasonable, kind of like the price you could probably find something on Amazon. You can find it there and you just pay cash and be done with it. Um, so there's not like it's not you're not a place where you're going to get huge deals. Again, not speaking the Japanese language and not really fully appreciating the culture. I know that they're not as big on negotiating as say the Chinese are, um, but for especially for the components and the parts that are obviously you know taken and stripped from other things, you could certainly you could talk if I was buying a bundle, I could try to say basically like 40 yen for all this. Um, and if so, basically a yen is a penny. Uh, Given on any day the exchange rate fluctuates, but basically a yen is a penny, and everything is just so. In other words, 400 yen is $4. 4,000 yen is $40. And that gives you kind of a baseline. And most, like I said, most of the prices, um, you know, were reasonable. Now, obviously, there is from the picture there is other stuff to see and do. Um, there is so anything about Japanese culture, especially the anime, or is it manga? I always butcher these names. So the typical cartoonish kind of um, entertainment animation. Those stores are all strewn about in there as well as stores that are selling new electronics, new gadgets and gizmos. Um, from what I can tell, the um, it's not sort of like the mecca to buy electronics as it was maybe the 80s and early 90s. With globalization now, everything, especially the high end electronic stuff, there's not anything really brand new I didn't see. I didn't get to go everywhere. We were only there for a day, and only for a few hours. But I didn't see anything like wow, whiz bang, that's 22nd century kind of stuff. Um, the thing that I really liked was, and where we focused a lot of time was, again, those little stalls off the beaten path that are selling all just kinds of electronics, gadgets, and gizmos for people that actually want to go ahead and solder and put their own stuff together. So yeah, so that was my 1 day of freedom out in Tokyo. Again, it's Akihabara. So if you've ever get a chance to go over there, um, bring a couple bucks and maybe bring an extra suitcase. Um, it was pretty cool. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and yeah, let's get into the stories. All right, and real quick before we get into our stories, I'd like to go ahead and thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Audible.com. There is, at this point, if you haven't heard of Audible.com, um, I don't know what else to say. Um, but in case you have been one of those guys living under a rock, uh, Audible.com is the place to go. It's an Amazon company or a subsidiary or a part of Amazon or something like that, where you can get audiobooks. They have currently, I believe, 150,000 titles, and they are all accessible via iPhone, Android, um, the Kindle if you have a Kindle, and you can also download to if you've got some other sort of MP3 player. So go over there and check them out. If you visit audibletrial.com/steampowerpodcast, you'll get a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. So go check them out and thank the good folks at audible.com. Um, and the other is not a sponsor, um, but they did solicit a review, and I haven't actually seen the final product yet, but um, I did want to mention because they gave me their link and it was really cool. Um, and I'll try to see if I can throw in, but the company is called epicfrequency.com, and basically what they're it's an art meets technology kind of company, and what they're doing is they are taking famous sound bites from over the years. So, for instance, Neil Armstrong, his one small step for man, the first words spoken on the moon. And what they do is they print it out very beautifully, and they actually print out basically the electronic reading of the sound waves, um, kind of like you would see on an oscilloscope. And they add color, and they add um, it's very beautifully done. And if you check out the website, um, it's pretty cool. Again, I haven't seen one yet, but I'm really interested. They've got Franklin Delano Roosevelt, fear, nothing to fear but fear itself speech, JFK's "Ask Not What You Can Do" speech. The one I did listen to, I didn't heard, was Albert Einstein explaining E = mc². Um, and the other really cool thing is a custom epic frequency canvas print. So you pick the audio, you pick the color, and then they will custom print it out. The prints start at 39 bucks, so seems like a pretty good deal. They go up from there, I think, based on, I guess, how it's printed and the quality of the material and the types of finishes. So, anyway, epicfrequency.com. Again, not a sponsor, but they did solicit a review, and I checked it out, and it's one of those things that it's cool because it's tech, it's art, it's the merger or the convergence of those two worlds. So when I do get a print, if I do get a print, um, I'll be sure to show it here. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the stories, shall we? Okay, our first story this week. Again, 3D printing. Um, I recently read for my job, my day job, we have what's called the Naval Aviation Vision, something like that, um, which talks basically the next 15, 20 years where we're headed. And there was a whole section devoted to additive manufacturing, which sounds more impressive, I guess, than 3D printing. So in my opinion, it's it's I we're still in the very nascent stages of this technology, but I think it is going to be huge. And so with that, there is a story here that comes to us. I think the original was on Engadget, talking about 3D printing and fighting cancer. And I guess the original article is from the Journal of Physics, the Institute of Physics. Let's see here. The Institute of Physics is Biofabrication Journal, which just the term biofabrication sounds awesome. But anyway, the short of the story is, for many years they've been building two-dimensional cultures to test cancer-fighting drugs. Um, and while somewhat successful, they're not completely necessarily accurate as they would be with an actual 3D version of a cancer cell. So these groups of scientists and researchers are proposing to 3D print a the cancer, and then be having basically would allow for more accurate testing of medication to fight various types of cancer. So uh, pretty cool. If you are a bio guru, if you enjoy biology, chemistry, this article is probably right up your alley. Um, it's a little much for me, but is still the article from the Institute of Physics is actually pretty well written, even if you're not a biology major. So pretty cool. All right, next story from Gizmodo. It's a new proposal for floating nuclear reactors. So, and the article goes on to talk about it actually, and I won't belabor the point, but this is not a completely new idea. In fact, I think the article talks about that the Russians are building something similar. Um, Except theirs is more of it's a ship, but basically it's a group of researchers out of MIT um, that propose taking and creating nuclear reactors and taking them offshore. Basically, the advantages would be if there's an accident, you're far enough away that I would assume, um, though probably have to be close enough to make the power distribution worth it. So, the cabling to get the power ashore. Um, but the idea is you use the cold ocean water to be a natural coolant, and you can do so passively. Um, should be better, safer, um, and be able to ride out storms and not to be affected by things like tsunamis and earthquakes on the landlocked nuclear reactors that we have today. So, cool concept. I don't know how well it will be taken. Um, you know, there's been such an outcry against offshore wind turbines that especially in light of Fukushima, tying it back to my recent Japan trip. Um, I don't know, you know, well, it may be technically feasible. It may be just fine and safe, or as safe as other methods, but public can be finicky about stuff like that. So, but a good article. Check it out. All right. A new documentary, which I watched and was pleasantly surprised. Um, it was pretty well done. Um, that discussed the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. Um, and basically, LIGO for short. But so, in a nutshell, there is a upgraded version of this instrument that's coming online next year, hopefully, And basically, um, it is like, like an observatory that goes out and looks at electromagnetic radiation. So how we see the stars with using light or microwave or infrared or ultraviolet. Um, that's electromagnetic radiation. Its force carrier is a photon. Well, of all the four forces, the force of gravity we quite haven't figured out yet. We believe that there is, just like there is the wave particle duality of light and electromagnetic radiation, that gravity has both these gravitons as a particle and has gravitational waves. And this LIGO is coming online, is hopefully more sensitive than the previous attempts. I was reading another article that talked about the other attempts were because basically you're looking for gravitational waves that things like just trucks driving by induced enough noise that they couldn't pick a basically if there was gravitational waves being detected, they weren't coming above the floor, the noise floor. So hopefully this new instrument is more sensitive and we'll be able to pick it up. And basically, as we talked before, it's gravity is the one force we haven't quite understand how it really works, and we hope that by understanding it, we kind of will begin to connect the quantum world with the world of general relativity and the stuff that we live in the macroscopic. So anyway, good article, good video. Check it out. Okay, let's see here. New website, Knowable.org. I just stumbled upon this, and I think it's a fairly new site. They're still developing it, but basically, it's a way to, and this is my opinion of it. I don't know what they're really intending to be, but it is sort of like it's a way to advertise projects you're working on. Um, it is kind of hardware centric. It's not quite a social network. At least some of the pages that I visit, the projects that I visited, it's more about creating very visual ways of showing off your projects. So there's lots of pictures, few words, nice artwork, um, and then a way for you to share it if you like it. They also tie into skills, like there's Arduino, there's programming, there's also circuit boards, CNC, 3D printing, a couple other skills. You can request notifications about the project. You can post comments. Um, I think there's definitely more it could incorporate. Um, Kind of the social media, social networking aspect of it. I think be bumped up a little bit. Um, some pages I've seen tied to their Kickstarter campaigns, which is, this is a very good way to kind of have a public website that people can see what your project does. Haven't noticed any videos included. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But looks promising. It looks like they're off to a good start. So check it out. Knowable.org. All right. And I'm going to try this one more time. If this video doesn't work, I'm actually just going to pump the volume out through my computer and hopefully pick it up that way. But I hadn't heard this before. This is tying it back. Neil Armstrong gave a speech a few years back. He died, I believe, in 2012. And it's a speech on being an engineer, being a nerd, and then tying it up with kind of like just a very optimistic view of the future. So I'm going to play it here. If it doesn't, I'll just post a link. Last time I did a video, it didn't work too well. So anyway, here we go. This is from PhDcomics.com.
I am, and ever will be, a White Sox pocket protector nerdy engineer. Born under the second law of thermodynamics, seeped in the steam tables, in love with free body diagrams, transformed by Laplace and propelled by compressible flow. As an engineer, I take substantial amount of pride in the accomplishments of my profession. Science is about what is, engineering is about what can be. Engineers' entire existence is dedicated to doing things better and more efficiently. It is a profession which leaves its imprint on our society in countless ways. A century ago, the world really needed improvements in quality of life, health, mobility, and living standards. At that time, life was a constant struggle. The 20th was a century often punctuated with the terror of war, darkened with societal struggles to overcome injustice. But the 20th was also the first century in which technology enabled the tenets and the images of those traumas to reach across the world and touch people in ways that were previously unimagined. Engineering helped create a world in which no injustice could be hidden. Many will look back to see how we have changed and what we have accomplished. The future's a bit foggy, but it's not unreasonable to suggest that the 21st century will enjoy a rate of progress not unlike the 20th. It's something to hope for.
So that is it. Very, very impressive speech. Simple, to the point, and makes an impact. So, yeah, Neil Armstrong, first man to walk on the moon. All right, that'll do it for another week of the Steam Power Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can follow along, steampowerpodcast.com. We're also on Google+, google.com/plus Steam Power Podcast. You can follow me personally. I'm at on Twitter at mbparks, and so yeah, post any favorite stories on science, technology, engineering, art, math, anything you find interesting. Post a comment, leave a comment. You can do so here as well, and so yeah, with that, hopefully you have a great week. Hopefully I'll get back to doing these more on a weekly basis. That really is my goal, but life just keeps creeping in the way. And what are you going to do? So with that, have a great week, and we'll see you then, I guess. Or not. I don't know. Anyway, take care and stay quirky.